Coulter told you that she wouldn't vote for you because you're Indian. She told you that verbatim.
Yes, you are an Indian, is what she said. So look, I think it's shameful. I disagree with it deeply. But one of the things that I think we need more of in this country, the only thing worse than that is her not saying it.
Vivek Ramaswamy destroying the Breakfast Club. Let's go.
Verbal on life.
Check it out.
Coulter told you that she wouldn't vote for you because you're Indian. She told you that verbatim.
Yes, you are an Indian, is what she said. So look, I think it's shameful. I disagree with it deeply. But one of the things that I think we need more of in this country, the only thing worse than that is her not saying it, but that actually being a true fact for women.
You see how this man operates? Like, you got to let people talk their truth because it's their truth. She was wrong for it, not him. He knew how to respond to it. How do you deal with somebody who's racist? Not start crying and start saying, oh my God, they're being racist. No. You let them talk. You let them ruin themselves because he's going to be okay. This is something that I got to show my son. Great way to respond. Would I have responded like that? Probably not. You know, I've been, I think, fooled by the Democratic Party. Growing up in New York City, all you know is Democrat, blue, no matter who. So, always taking the victimhood mentality and letting others speak to you like you're the victim, so therefore people got to do stuff for you, instead of just showing how great you are. I think it's called meritocracy. That's what's missing. Just be great, like this guy.
Many people wouldn't vote for me.
But you know, it's a lot of
So
people
let's
in
get
the
it out in the
party.
open,
A
and
lot
let's
of
talk
people in the
about it.
party who look at you like that, though. I mean, it's the same party that would make racist jokes about you, draw the racist cartoons.
Well, here's one of the things.
See, Charlamagne the God doesn't let go of racism. Why? There's a lot of money in talking racism and how the other people are being racist. And that's coming from Charlamagne, a millionaire, a multi-millionaire who made it to the tippy top, but yeah, he doesn't let go. There's a lot of people at the top that doesn't want to let go of racism because that's how they made their money. That's where they made their bread and butter. And more and more people got to call it out. Like, this man is doing good. What the hell is he talking about?
I actually haven't mentioned this before. One of the things that bothered me a little bit in the campaign is maybe it's because of my style or whatever. A lot of people in the Republican primary base would say, oh, he's just telling us what we want to hear. And I don't think that he actually means it or believes it. I got that a lot, actually. I thought about it after the race. If I really wanted to tell you what you wanted to hear, do you think I would tell you that I'm a Hindu who practices with my beliefs without changing or shortening my last name?
So this is like a belief that I can be myself and make it to the top, make it to the highest office in the land, just by being honest with people. And that's it. There's no changing who I am or what I'm about. That's a crazy message right there. Like, is he able to sell that to the people? Like, this particular election, okay, we had Trump, so he had to win. But moving forward, wow. I want to see Vivek definitely develop and move forward with that idea. Let's see how far he can get.
So if I'm going to stick to that, you have a lot of politicians in American politics, including other people on that debate stage that have changed their name, some who have evolved their religion. I haven't done any of those things. So if I wanted to tell you something that was going to make it easier for me to win, those would be the number one and two things that you would do. But my view is you got to be who you are. And I am somebody who has my own beliefs. And I am proud of not only my faith because it guides me to make the decisions I do.
When it comes to being an entertainer, a celebrity, or even in politics, a lot of people change their names and change their views to go with whatever the crowd thinks or whatever the crowd likes. Like Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, but she made it that, so more people like her. Right now, Kamala Harris changing stance on everything, not everything, but a lot of ideas that she has. Why? To try to go with the flow, go with the crowd. Growing up in Harlem, I hated going with the crowd. And you know what happens when you don't go with the crowd? You don't make that many friends, right? Because Harlem, everybody wants you to be that big bad guy, fight the cops, shoot, sell drugs, get arrested. I didn't agree with none of that. I'm like, I don't need to go to jail. I don't need to be that tough guy. So that means growing up with not a lot of friends because all your friends were tough. You know, doing the first, second stint with jail. Shout out to Knock on Knock Chris. big baller, but he did what he had to do, and I did my thing. I love the fact that that particular guy left me alone. Hey, do your thing. I don't know you. Let's go. All right, let's finish listening to Vivek. Where was I?
But who I am and how I got to where I am. Now, I think in the long run, and I've met many people in the Republican primary base across the entire country, I think in the long run, people do respect that level of authenticity.
Yes.
And so are there going to be a lot of people who on either side of the spectrum to say, I can't vote for you for some silly reason? Sure. But I'm not going to be a victim over that. You know what? If I'm running to be president of the United States, I can't blame the media. I certainly can't blame the voters. It's my job to actually give people a reason to say, you know what, you might have believed what you did before, but here's your reason to think about it a little bit differently.
That's crazy. My man is now using identity politics. He should tell people, vote for me because I'm Indian. But I love the fact that he's not saying that. He's not using that. He's showing you what he's thinking. He's clear about it. And if you're confused, this man answer questions. He would say, listen, talk. What's your question? Be clear. Let's all be clear. Let's talk. I love the fact that he talks everything out. That is so difficult to find. Like, for example, Kamala Harris now is up to 30 days with no interviews and talking to reporters, just hiding. I think it's difficult to do. It's difficult to answer questions honestly and just have a real conversation with people. Difficult to do. But what am I talking about? Let's keep listening.
And I think we did bring along a lot of people who believed they could have never voted for a Hindu, who said that, you know what, if he shares the same value set that I do and is actually going to advance the country and allow me to be religiously free. I think there were a few people who we brought along that way, more than a few people over the course of the campaign. And, I think one of the things I learned is I preach this to the left all the time, right? Is that I won't say that you're the only person who's responsible for your destiny, because there's always external factors that hold you back, external prejudices or whatever. You and I, in our last conversation, talked about this a lot in the Black community, but you could say the same thing in this context. You're talking about me and my race for president. Okay, maybe you're not the sole determinant of what you achieve in life. Fine. But the most important determinant of what you're able to achieve in life is still you. There are other factors, but the number one factor that determines whether or not you succeed or achieve your goals is you.
That's crazy. You know how many times I feel like just giving up and letting go? And that's the worst idea, to just walk away. The fact that you're waking up, you're getting up, and you are trying says a lot. Because not a lot of people have the balls to just keep trying, to keep pushing forward. So, hey, nobody can talk bad about this message, the message this man just put out there, that the main factor is you. And you taking a look at the scene out there and then assessing what can you do different, what can you fix, what can you change, what stays the same. I mean, look at that. That's my opinion. Let's keep listening.
So for me, now I got to preach that hard truth to myself. Are there a lot of factors that were uphill factors for me in this race, including my last name being harder to remember or to pronounce, the fact that I'm Hindu, which you haven't had a Hindu president before? Are there a lot of other reasons why? Sure. But the number one reason why I wasn't successfully elected comes still down to me. And I got to look and confront myself in the mirror and ask myself what I could have done better.
You know how hard it is for people to do that? Like, I'm trying to figure out, how do I teach my son how to lose, right? Or how to fail? Because everybody fails as something in life. It's just part of life, right? So how do you deal with a failure? How do you learn from it, number one? Number two, how do you get up the next day? It just work stronger or differently, change things up, be a little better. And that's a lesson that I think people should learn. That's it. Even if you get turned down or discouraged from doing something, to get up and keep working the next day. It's not over. It's not over. The fight still goes on. So for a lot of people who's just getting into the blaming game, that sucks. It's because I'm Black. It's because I'm Hispanic. It's because I'm different. No. We need to walk away from that. Number one is you. Once you could do greatness, can't nobody mess with you. That's insane. When you could do something that you are the best at, and then you assess yourself and decide either you keep going or just change it up. It's nice when you can make that assessment and not let others make that assessment for you. Here I am battling MS. How am I battling MS? Trying to move as much as possible, created a YouTube channel, and just talking into the camera, right? Is it working? I'm making that assessment. I'm going to see if I could get any ratings or any views or comments or likes. So if you're still watching this video, go ahead and give this video a like. But my solution to my problem is making YouTube video, talking as much as possible, because little by little, a little faster than most regular people, I'm losing a lot of my abilities, motor function abilities. So I'm going to keep talking. Going back to Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm really inspired by this guy. Let's keep listening. Hopefully he's going to run for president in one of these presidential elections in the future. Let's go.
To succeed. And so same message I'm going to preach to the left or preach to the other side. I'm going to try to practice in my own life as well. If you want to be the leader of the country, it's up to you to level up and actually explain to people why you believe that your vision is going to be best for them.
Yep.
And you know what? It was a hell of an experience, and I wouldn't trade it off for anything. It's been probably the most challenging but most enriching thing I've done in my life was the last year of traveling this country, meeting people of all creeds, all political persuasion, all races. Strengthened me. And you know what? Whatever I do next, I'm going to be stronger for it. And we're figuring that out right now. What I would love to see is both candidates, and Kamala Harris hasn't done this yet. I'd love to challenge her to do it because I think it's good for the voters of the country. She hasn't sat down for one media interview of a hard-pressing one-on-one variety yet. And she's actually the leading candidate now in many of the polls for U.S. president. So I just think we deserve a country where the people are willing to show up. She should show up here. She should show up on CNBC where I was.
It's nice to see greatness in action at the highest level of offices, all offices, any job you got. Nobody likes to see a guy who's not doing his job properly, who's just dysfunctional. And you're like, I could do that better. What the hell is that person doing? And that goes for any profession, for any job. It's just to see somebody get to the top and don't seem to know what they're doing. And you know you're better than them. And it's easy to show.
This morning and actually engage in hard questions about what our beliefs are. You saw JD, say what you will, on 3 shows yesterday, pressed on exactly that very issue. And I think that's good for the American people to then be able to make their own judgment. It's not your judgment or the journalist's judgment, but it's what people at home are able to see to assess. Do I actually believe somebody who believes they changed their mind over the course of time? Kamala Harris might have changed her mind, and I think it's okay. Flip-flopping is one thing, changing your mind thoughtfully is another. But you
flip-flopping. I used to be a Democrat, not anymore, man. Those guys are the slave owners, are the ones running the slave camp. They're good. They got a bunch of intellectual, a lot of college graduates that are just continue to make people or continue to hold other races down. And then the magic is letting people believe that you're doing good. Yes, you're a victim. Yes, play that victim mentality. All of this is because they're not using DEI, which to me is another word for affirmative action. It is their fault, it's not yours. You are the victim. But look at me, change my mind. You know what? Through and through, I'm a Republican. We need Trump back in the White House. We need a guy that can take a bullet to the face and keep it moving. Let's go. Why are we going to get mom in there? Mama Kamala. I don't see, if a man votes for Kamala, you got issues, my man. You got issues. You're probably going through the transition process right now. And that's what you're voting for her. Jesus.
You deserve to be questioned on it. And it's up to the voters to decide whether or not they believe you. Right now, we're not getting that chance. And I do think it is, you know, you're saying, well, hopefully we're going to see that. I'm not sure yet that we will. It's been about a solid month that Kamala Harris has been the presumptive nominee. We got the convention coming up, this coming week, next week. I think it is vital for the health of this country that the same treatment that the media gave Joe Biden in that last few weeks after his debate, they didn't do that for 3 years.
Yeah.
For 3 years, we missed that. The fact that it took that early debate and Donald Trump.
It's crazy that Charlamagne said, yeah, because he knows that, and he's part of the media. He helps Democrat keep the slave in order. Crazy.
demolishing him in that debate, for the country to suddenly wake up and say that Joe Biden is not a functioning U.S. president is actually a damning indictment of the entire media and its relationship to the political class. So we can't make that same mistake with Kamala Harris. I think the media needs to demand that she at least face the same kind of questioning that, frankly, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are getting right now. And then the public it's up to them to decide. That's a functioning democracy.
But because you're not implying, by her not doing the interviews and based off of the way that Biden was treated in those last couple of weeks, you're not implying that you don't think she's competent to be the president.
Again, victim mentality. Ain't nobody trying to say nothing negative about the woman, but the truth. Where is she?
In the United States, right?
I'm saying the media is covering for her right now the same way they covered for Biden for 3 years.
You think they're covering, or you think that she's just using her
They're not playing
strategy?
hard. They're not paying this. She's using a strategy. Okay, I think she's using some smart.
Which politicians do.
That's fine, but I think it's the media's job now to cut through that strategy and say this person very well could be the president of the United States. Has at least a 50% chance right now, according to most forecasts, of being the next president. She deserves to be questioned, not with kid gloves, but questioned with the gloves off, on what exactly her policy vision is for the country. Until that happens, I think the voters are hiding in the dark, and that's what allows the machine to work, because we know she's questioned a lot on that behind closed doors. Who's funding the campaigns of both parties? You know, behind closed doors, a lot of donors ask a lot of questions. That's how you raise hundreds of millions of dollars in just 1 month. The voting public deserves that same level of transparency. Say what you will about, you could criticize either side. I like that Donald Trump showed up at the Libertarian Party convention, right? That's the third party convention. I actually spoke there. He spoke there as well the next night. I like that he spoke to the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago. I'd love for Kamala Harris to show up at the National Association of Black Journalists.
Well, she wanted to, but they wouldn't let her do the
excuses. How about a phone call? How about a phone interview? How about you show up? Like, who is this? Who are the Democratic Party voting for? It's crazy that it's blue no matter who. At the same time, it's destroying the country. Because one thing that they like to talk about is that federal elections don't really matter as much as local elections. So therefore, I don't really care. The hell you talking about? You don't really care. It starts from the top and trickles down to the local, in my opinion. So I do care.
a virtual thing. Yeah, she does have a day job.
But the day
She's still
job,
vice president.
No, but the day job is running. Come on, at this point, she is going full time, reading off a teleprompter at the rallies, the same thing 4 times a day. She should show up for that interview. If Donald Trump sits down with the National Association of Black Journalists, I'm sorry, a scheduling excuse is not a valid reason for the
don't we know
competitor to also show up.
But if Kamala, not to cut you off, I'm sorry. If Kamala sits down with NABJ, we know where she's going conversation wise, right? I think it's honestly,
not necessarily true. I don't think that's true. I think the person who did that interview for Donald Trump, if they had taken the same approach with respect to Kamala Harris, I think that'd actually be pretty good conversation for the country.
I don't know if she would. I want to see the vice president on Fox News.
Yeah, I think she should go across the room.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even
that will be crazy. I hope it happens.
Better, right? So one of the things I liked, I mean, Donald Trump went to the Bronx. People could say it wasn't the real Bronx or whatever, but he showed up in the Bronx. He showed up in the South Bronx, showed up in inner cities in the country. Even in my own campaign, I went to the South Side of Chicago, went to a room full of 95% Black, 95% Democrat. It's not a traditional Republican primary location. Mm-hmm. I went to Kensington in the inner city of Philadelphia. Speaking as a former candidate myself, I could tell you those trips had an impact on me, right? It had an impact on my view of a national unity that I believe is possible in this country that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't showed up there.
Those are crazy words. A national unity. Those are things that people at the top should be talking about. How do we unify everybody? Because you become everybody's president. You're not just the president for a small group that voted for you. The entire country. But again, let's keep listening because Vivek just keep dropping truth bombs.
I'd love to see Kamala Harris go into rural Mississippi, going to Alabama, showing up at a Fox News moderated town hall.
Well, she does do that. Now we can't act like she doesn't do that. I mean, even the past week, she hit all of the battleground states, and she's actually hitting the street, which I think in a lot of ways is more effective right now than sitting
with
down and
hostile
doing an
questioning.
interview.
Though is not. I want to see her answer questions from people who disagree with her. That's what the country's founded on. All right, so face off with the people you disagree with.
But this is the DEI hire. We can't do this. She's not at that level. We're just hiring her because a female of color. What color? What the hell are we talking about? Orange?
So like town halls, you mean?
Yeah, town halls.
I'm not mad at that.
And or hostile journalists.
Mhm.
And here's why. When you stop talking
Not
to people
hostile, hard hitting.
hard hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, could you see black women in a hostile situation? Did you see that when you went to them places?
Mad racist. What the hell are you talking about black women in situations? How about human beings in hostile situations? It's not a race thing. It's not a color thing.
She gonna know how to handle it. She's gonna be good.
I hope so. We'll see. I hope so for the country. But here's what I will say is when you stop talking to people who disagree with you, it becomes a lot easier to demonize them.
I agree.
I agree with that.
And that's what happens in the country. So say what you will about, I know we probably have different views on who we're voting for this cycle, but I will say more so than most Republicans, and in this cycle, more so than the Democratic opponent, Donald Trump has talked to people who disagree with him, faced off more than Kamala Harris has. And I think she has a couple months left to see if she has it in her to level up. If you want to sit across the table from Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, then you better be willing to sit across the table from your fellow Americans who disagree with you and face that questioning too. And that's my challenge to her. If she does that, I'm not going to say I'm going to vote for her, but because I disagree with her on the policies, but I will respect her as a candidate in a way that I don't until she actually does. Going after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper or telling audiences what they want to hear, I think is a good line of attack because we don't know what her policies are. So she said a few years ago she's against fracking. Now she says she's not against fracking. A few years ago, she said she wanted to have a single-payer healthcare system and a nationalized U.S. healthcare system and abolish private health insurance.
I used to love the fact that the media used to say that they will hold the president's feet to the fire and like get a lot of information from them and have them defend themselves and their policies. All that stuff that we don't see nowadays from the media. All you hear them talking about, well, she doesn't need to interview, really. We know who she is. It's like a flip-flop. It's crazy.
She raised her hand when they said, do you favor abolishing private health insurance on the debate stage? She raised her hand. Now her advisors are saying, she won't say, but her advisors are saying she no longer believes that. So I think it's an interesting line of attack to say, are you just going to tell people what they want to hear? Or are you going to tell your people what you actually believe about yourself and who you are?
And it's crazy. The Breakfast Club have Vivek go on here to speak the truth because this is not the message that they would like the audience to hear. The politicians and the media seem to work together in sending out messages. And this message right here is crazy.
That I think is an interesting line of attack. And that could include some cultural elements. Going after her for what her racial identity is or isn't, I don't think that's a good line of attack. But the idea that are you somebody who's going to tell people your actual beliefs or you're just going to tell whichever audience is in front of you what they want to hear, that I think is valid.
I think both parties need to be talking about nothing but the issues at this point because people are out here hurting and people want to know how you're going to put money in their pocket and how you're going to keep them safe. Whoever can speak to those things to the next 80 plus days, that's who wins this election.
Mass illegal immigration, economic growth, and staying out of World War III. Who has the better vision to do each of those things? Do both parties agree on that?
Massive deportation, economics, and what's the other one he said? See that? I can't stick to the issues like he can. But I guess those three things that he just mentioned, I just see Trump repeating those things every single time he has a rally. Massive deportation and helping people economically. And that third issue, which, let me rewind it a little bit.
8 plus days, that's who wins this election.
Mass illegal immigration, economic growth, and staying out of World War III.
Staying out of World War III, of course. We all know that affects the military complex, so that's going to be an issue.
Who has the better vision to do each of those things? Do both parties agree on that? First of all, that's an open question. Where do we stand on mass illegal immigration? We don't really know what the Democratic position is, but assuming we agree on mass illegal immigration is a bad thing, economic stagnation is a bad thing, and World War III is a bad thing, how do we solve those three problems? Whichever party offers the better solutions deserves to be elected, and that's the way I'm voting in the election. I think Kamala Harris has an opportunity now because the opportunity she has is she didn't have to go through a primary. Going through a primary is interesting because it forces you to actually bend the knee to, let's say, the far whatever wing of your own party and take criticism unless you do. She didn't have to do that. So she has an opportunity now to take advantage of that and say, I'm starting with a clean slate and I'm actually just changing the game for the system. I don't see her doing that yet. Maybe you're saying she can't do that. I don't know why she can't do that. If she's the actual president, she has an opportunity to step up and lead. But you know what? Just speaking as an American, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm going to vote for Trump on policy. But if she came out and said, you know what, here's my stance on cryptocurrency. Okay, Donald Trump came out with the Bitcoin policy. Here's my policy. Here's my position on AI. Here's my position on the border. You know what? I was the vice president, but Joe Biden did some things that I disagree with. Here's how I would do it differently. I would at least respect her for that. If she doesn't do that, that tells me actually it's not that she's some sort of ideologue or some communist or whatever. Some people level that critique. I don't think that's the real critique. I think the real critique is then you just become another cog in the system. And what I'm interested in breaking that system. And I want the people we elect to run the.
You know, I hope Trump brings him in. I don't know, as part of the party to help break that system up. You know, there's so many systems that definitely whoever wins the presidency, they run the country. Behind the scenes, they're talking about who is the deep state. Well, these are the people who run the country. You cannot fire them. You can't say anything to them, right? All you can do is discipline them. I think Trump said at one time that Biden doesn't fire anybody. He doesn't remove anybody. And there's a lot of people that needs to get removed. And that's why they're working overtime to make sure Trump doesn't win. I mean, there are conspiracies saying that they try to kill him, but we don't know. So there is a deep state and they got to get removed. It's only a job. It's not the end of the world. So just letting them go find another profession because this one is over. We need a president with a spine to run this country. And having the deep state that you can't fire me, you work for me, so shut the hell up, team. We got to get rid of those people, unfortunately.
The government to be the ones who actually run the government. Whether I agree with you or not, at least the person who was elected should actually be running the show. And I just don't believe that's the case in the United States today. I have some serious differences with her.
But she's the vice president. If a president's not fit to, lead anymore, she's the natural person to take over.
Yeah, there's a real question around that too, is who's leading the country right now.
And that's another thing that they're saying that Biden might not make it all the way to January. So if she's given the presidency for anything that happens to the poor old man Biden, if he gives up and just walks away, that would be the first female president. I mean, she will be number 47 and Trump winning would be number 48. So we are living in an interesting time, like a real life movie. So it's good that I'm documenting all of this on video. Comment down below, what do you think if she becomes the 47th president? And then Trump will end up winning, becoming the 48th. I don't know, though, if he becomes the 48th because they're talking about arresting him on September 18th. I got to make another video about that he might go to jail September 18th. And then who dares vote for a guy who's in jail? And even if he wins, Congress may say that we cannot give the authority to somebody who's in jail serving time. Wow. Again, we live in a real life movie. Is Congress going to allow a guy that's in jail run the country? So still a lot of fighting to go. This is becoming a great, great movie. What's going to happen after he gets sentenced on September 18th?
We still have a country that's functioning between now and the election. And this is a question that the media has been surprisingly uncurious about. Like in a very serious sense, not in some sort of philosophical sense. Who's actually running the country right now? It is entirely unclear what the answer to that question is. And just speaking as an American, put the election to one side.
The unelected bureaucrats are the ones running the country. Say it with me. Unelected bureaucrats.
I think that ought to be deeply concerning too. We've got a president who, in some ways, it reminds me of the British monarchy a little bit, right? You used to have a British monarch who actually ran the country. And at a certain point, it just became a ceremonial figure. All the pomp and circumstance that you hold up as a figure, but really just ends up becoming a figurehead.
Just a ceremonial figure. That's what Kamala will be. She will be the perfect ceremonial figure. We have a person trying to learn how to talk to the people, how to talk in front of a camera, how to answer questions while the people in the background are the ones running the country. That would be ideal for the blue no matter who crowd.
An aged king that might or might not suffer from dementia. That's effectively what the United States has become, which is part of why we see the level of weakness on the global stage, why we see the loss of self-confidence in this country. For a country that you just have the pageantry of a monarch that isn't actually the functioning leader of the country, that too, I think, is a pretty big problem.
Crazy.
And Kamala Harris, I think, has an opportunity here. Whether she seizes it or not is a different question. If she steps up and is actually authentic about that question, says, you know what? We weren't particularly honest about where President Joe Biden was, and we deserve a government where the people in charge just tell you the truth. And say it like it is. You might like it, you might not like it, but I'm going to tell you what my beliefs are. And I don't want a bunch of lobbyists and bureaucrats around me wielding me as a pawn. And
can people that speak the truth win? Can they get anywhere in life?
So here are my actual beliefs. And you know what? I might have said this back in 2018 or 2019, but I changed my mind. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't say it. I changed my mind. Here's why I'm in a different place on fracking. Or here's why I don't favor nationalizing the healthcare system anymore. Because these are things she said in the past. It looks like she's, her advisors are trying to say that she didn't support that anymore. I think take the opposite approach. Just be totally upfront and say, you know what? Here's what I believe then. Here's what I believe now. Here's why I changed my mind. I'm not going to be anybody's puppet. I report to you, the people of the country. I'm different than Joe Biden because he was wielded as a puppet. I think that'd be bold.
All right. So Vivek Ramaswamy, the man is a genius and goes without saying. He's already a billionaire with way money, a family, kids. The man owns a plane, I think, a private jet, houses. He has it all, and decided to go into politics to try to save this country that he saw was headed in the wrong direction. And a lot of people are talking about how this country is headed in the wrong direction, and it just needs to be saved by smarter people. Because it's unbelievable that we don't have that many smart people in politics. Like, for example, the Democratic Party, like, this is the best they got. A Kamala Harris who doesn't really know how to speak to the audience or doesn't really know how to run a campaign. Like, this is the best they can do. It feels like they have, like, the deep state running her election and running the country. The people behind the scene that we don't see. The people who the president works for. They don't work for the president. The president gets a job and works for them. So at this point, you're doing such a horrible job that I hope we get Trump in there to fire all these people and fix things up. Let's see. Hopefully he doesn't sell out. But I gotta appreciate the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy is doing a great job at staying in the public light. Because at the end of the day, it's a popularity contest. Running for president is a popularity contest. Like right now, Trump is very, very popular and famous. So Vivek is taking the steps to become that famous and become a voice. And everybody respects his voice. Like when he talks, the man is clear. And he makes sense to a whole lot of people. He knows how to dumb down his conversation so that everybody understands. So the intellectuals agree with him, and everybody else, the common working person, will truly understand what he's saying. For example, let's take a look at him at the Breakfast Club. Let me see if I can play this video without being honest about what you stand for and who you are. Does that get you far in life? Because a lot of people that lie get far in life. A lot of people that just make things up as they go, as they go with the crowd. And maybe, here, personally, I hated the fact that you have to go with the crowd in order to get anywhere in life. So I grew up in Harlem, New York City. I didn't go with the crowd. A lot of people in the crowd moving forward seems easy for them. Like they just got to grab as much as possible from the government, take as much money as they can from the government. But the government was buying them off for like $200-$300 a month. And they're like, wow, they're smart. They're slick. They're getting the government to pay their rent. And they don't fight back because of that. Like the Blue No Matter Who crowd are getting money from the government, and the government is geniuses about it. They know that with a few bucks, they can get far. And they don't even paint the picture of the fact that you could create a business and go further in life on your own independently. And of course, you got the few men and women that figure it out and do get a job and do move ahead and do go to college and get a good paying profession. And once you move out, you're like, you know what? I'm not getting involved in this politics. It's too much. I got my family to work with. I'm making good money. So you have a lot of intellectuals just walking away. I personally just walked away. I said, you know what? You can't help them. They're too smart, right? Smart enough they go to jail a couple hundred times to get out, and they keep trying to do illegal stuff. There is no helping them. I like what Anton Daniel said. Forget them. That's it. Just walk away. You can't help them. The best you could do is help yourself. And that's the best way you could role model anything. Just do great. Hopefully you'll see it. If you don't see it, you're smart. Like, to me, everybody who didn't make it is a genius. I have a bunch of cousins that went that route, selling drugs, being cool in town, and you know, holding guns and going in and out of jail. Got a couple of cousins that got deported. They're the geniuses, smart guys. They didn't have to go to college. They didn't have to follow any rules. They didn't have to do anything. But ultimately, yes, they just end up going to jail or getting deported. Got a bunch of those. It's a sad situation. But I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about me. Again, grew up in New York City. Didn't follow the crowd, and that's what happens. Now here I am. Noel, on Verbal on Life, should be verbal about different things in life. Battling MS and not giving up. That's another trick to life. Don't give up, just keep pushing forward. And that's it. I can still move my fingers, I can still talk at 45 years old, and things just keep getting better and better. Shout out to Vivek. That was a great video we just saw. The man definitely is a role model. And no, I don't think we're gonna get to that level. You're gonna get to the best you can be. So I'm gonna try to be the best that I can. One of the difficult things that I wanna perfect and get better at is just talking my ideas, just speaking into the mic. You know how hard it is, just put your ideas out there? Well, you do know, and that's what you don't do it. So let's just keep pushing forward. With that said, that Vivek interview was amazing. And the only thing I could pull out from that is just be honest. Just speak your truth, your honesty, and let the chips fall where they may. That's it. At least I go to bed. I was honest with myself. Tomorrow or the next day, just push a little better. Take a look at this video and see what changes need to be made that I feel needs to be made. I'm like my number one salesman, right? I sell idea to myself, see what works, what doesn't work. And then my goal is to convince myself first and then try to convince others. But I've been on this for an hour. With that said, hopefully you enjoy the video. Give it a like so we can get more and more views. Peace.
Verbal or life.
Peace out.